Hard copy. How are you?
Hi, Mr. McKinney. How you doing?
Very good, thanks.
Okay, and good evening to your co-host.
Good evening, my dear.
Yeah, I listened to Amos, and he's very passionate. I wonder if he's passionate because I respect you, Mr. McKinney, because you know my voice way back.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he's passionate because what the message is being told that each person, Bahamian is going to get
Yes, $100,000 check.
But and in fact, it was high for majority rule day on our baby block that
Yes.
citizens will receive $1 million.
Let me wait for you.
So I just want because and then they said people will tell us we want our money. I just don't want persons to be misled. I believe strongly 100% in national resource and sovereignty. So, Mr. McKinney, I would like your input on the message that is being told. I just don't want our people to be somewhat.
I've got to research that. I did not hear.
Can you do? Yeah.
I did not hear that they were going to give out $1 million.
No, I was there, man.
And like I said, it was 100,000. Now it's $1 million.
No, I was there.
Form a new political party.
No, I don't want it to be misrepresented. There were monies put out there, but within the context. And part of the context is that there are countries around the world.
Right.
There are countries around the world that have created these sovereign wealth funds as a result of their resources.
Yes.
Let me give the context.
Okay.
Some countries don't give out the funds into persons' direct account.
Right.
But what they do, however, is that those sovereign wealth funds is given either, like, say, your light bill, free education, all of the things that you take monies for now, the state takes care of that from a sovereign wealth fund. There are some countries that give every year some form of stipend, some form of cash.
Saudi Arabia.
So the point that Lincoln and others were making is, and he's been more or less primarily the person in terms of the cash.
How would he know the value?
He gave the value on the basis of the prices that these countries pay, for an example, a ton of aragonite. So what he is saying is this: even if we nationalize these resources,
right,
based on the value that these things go at other nations, and based on the population in the Bahamas, that we will be able to take the funds that come by way of these resources, but on the market, part of which, if the country so decides, and if the government so decide, that they can, in one instance, take care of all of the national debts, the light bill, the free education, other stuff there. Or in our case, we only have about 300,000 people. In some countries, they're actually giving people cash. So what he's saying is that based on the funds that come from these, that there should be no reason why you can't even give. And I think in that context, he gave a certain amount.
How do we know how much aragonite we have?
Because they do it every year. For an example, every year, just like Amos mentioned.
So then it's stick a price. If you do it every year, you're not sure.
No, ma'am. The House of Assembly was presented, for an example, from Freeport alone, the amount of aragonite that goes by way of our ship every day or every other day. This is public record.
I know, but that might not be the standard still moving.
Ma'am, but we can only go by the numbers that is going out every day.
I personally feel we shouldn't put a number on it.
We understand it and respect it, but all he was saying is just like how everybody reaches the same conclusion. If the country says,
give what is the theory of the whole market.
But that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
What he's doing is giving what is happening, the price market out there, what we give out. He even projected, for an example, if you were to sell these things to countries that use, for an example, the sand, then based on that price alone, here's what you're able to do. And those things are projections.
Yeah, I know the projection, but the country is expanding its citizens every second. So that's what I'm saying to you. If you're saying every citizen would get this.
Well, can I help you with this, please?
Hello?
Can I help you with this?
Sure.
You know, I have heard so many stories about the Sovereign Wealth Fund, about our natural resources that we have in the Bahamas. Every country in this region, Mexico, most of the aragonite that is on the seabed of the Bahamas originates in the Gulf of Mexico. Every weekend, the tide sweeps thousands upon thousands of load of sand, not sand, but the aragonite, which is a calcium carbonate, it's a very fine sand. Most of the sand that is exported to the Bahamas goes for the refurbishment of beaches on the east coast of the United States. Florida, Georgia, Alabama, especially South and North Carolina, where you have beaches, erosion, Texas, and the like. Okay? Straight up the east coast. What we got to consider, what is the cost associated with dredging this sand out of our country to take elsewhere? Now, even as Minister of Trade and Industry, to be honest with you, I probably should have gone more in-depth on it, because that aragonite dredging started in 1965 by a company out of Fort Lauderdale called Makuna Ocean Industries, who sold it about 30 years later to a company called AES. That was the same company that wanted to do LNG on Ocean Key, to transport that LNG to Florida Power and Light on Turkey Point plant on the south coast of Florida. That didn't happen. The next product that we're talking about that people believe is our natural resource is salt. Okay? Some of our islands, like Ragged Island, you can go to Ragged Island, Long Island, you can see the salt on the beach in certain areas, that is. Okay? Crooked Island, but it is not in commercial quantities. There were two companies from the 30s that used to produce salt. Modern Salt is still there, and we had Diamond Crystal that folded up and left. Again, you must ask the question, what is the cost associated with mining these products that we are talking about?
That's my point.
Okay? To arrive at these figures, but somebody can get $100,000 a year. There's a cost associated.
Even if there's a cost associated. What we shouldn't miss is this, Les, and I think this is an important statement. What we shouldn't miss is this. And this is the heart of the generational question that we have. And that is this. Even Mr. Pinlan himself mentioned, as early as the 60s, the extent to which our natural resources would become the salvation or the economic vehicle of the country.
Did he mention
and he mentioned specifically aragonite. But here's the point, ma'am.
at the mouth, every
Ma'am, please, all of those things, and this is where I think the country. This is where I think the country have. This is where I think the country have to have this conversation, and that is this, Leslie, that for years, people came into this country, raped off our resources, while our Bahamian government stood by, almost turned their blind eyes to the enormous amount of wealth that goes out of this country. And even if they sell it at same people, what we have discovered that cannot be refuted is the extent that those who came into this land got the resources, and they turned those resources into millions. Von Miller just a few months ago laid before Parliament what was an official document. I think Prescott Smith and others who led this charge, official documents showing millions of dollars exported from Freeport at a time when Freeport is basically, at the time when Freeport, when they say people stand on the line in Freeport. How can you have a government know that on these boats are millions of dollars worth of what comes from this country, and at the end of the day, there is not a dime to show where the Bahamian people are benefiting. So all I want to say is this, right? I don't want us to get caught up in, like to this woman's point. Whether or not, let me finish. See, anyone can say whether the numbers could be 100 or 50 or whatever have you. I thought I mentioned the earlier point just to give the framework by which the conversation is at. What is important is this, and which is where all of us should come together, is this. At a time when the country is shut down, at a time when we are looking to sustain us as a nation and preserve us as a people. All of us should be on one page that the resources of this country, irrespective of the amount and the money that is made, it is time that becomes the ownership of the Bahamian people and we benefit from it. We can discuss the figures down the road.
Nobody's disputing
I
nothing you said a while ago.
Madam, okay, so
I like the education.
okay, we dealt with salt, right?
Disputing what you're saying.
Most of the salt that is exported from the Bahamas are used primarily, they ship to Canada and the United States to be used on the highways in the United States. It's rough salt that stops you from skidding. And they use tons and tons and tons of it on the streets of the United States and Canada. That's where the bulk of molten salt goes. We have now oil. The first oil well that we attempted to drill was in 1948, right off Andres. The last one was done by Chevron. I think it was in 1976, if I remember.
72,
76, I think, off Cat Island.
Okay.
None of them was proven to be of commercial quantities back then because the engineering wasn't as good as it is now. All right, there are three main natural resources, fish and everything else is a different category all by itself, right? I only want to explain to you, and Glenn and everybody else, that nothing prohibits us as a people from exploiting those products ourselves. We could go ahead and sell sand or aragonite on the east coast of the United States that these people have been doing. We could go ahead and we could put up a factory that would produce salt for us in the islands that we're talking about. But the foreigner comes in here really that was done through the UBP. And it just went on infinitum. I agree with you all. Something should happen. But the figures don't match with reality. No one can make that kind of money that you're talking about. It doesn't exist.
I think that's where you're dumbing down.
No, I'm not dumbing down.
I think this is a generation.
I'm not dumbing down.
This is a generational question, Leslie, in this way.
I am saying, Leslie, the profit margins and the cost associated with getting these products is very expensive. I'm not saying, there is money to be made. The government goes into contraction agreement with the company. We have several companies here that go and bring sand in new properties. The rock people in Freeport is in a different category because you know what? We have allowed Bahama to become an independent state. We don't get the money, the Port Authority gets it. Do you realize that we own some 15% of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and has never gotten a penny?
But that's all.
I never asked for it.
That's all I'm saying is this, right? You're just looking.
We can do it. You're
just looking at it in the context of the raw product.
No, I'm not.
Let me finish. And you know, I mean, you have been Minister of the Light Industry.
Yes.
Imagine bringing that same kind of mindset to the thinking. What do that mean?
Manufacturing and product.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Bahamian people now in a position to not only appreciate, like Prescott said, that we are in possession of our natural resources that the world all over is in need of.
But every country,
let me finish the point.
That's what I'm saying.
You rightfully mentioned that aragonite, for example, for whatever the currents and the wind that God created, allow this thing to flow into the Bahamas to the place of being infinite. So part of the new government thinking has to be, not only do we have the resources, but do we have the intellectualism? Right now we should have been thinking, Steve, schools, manufacturing, all of those as a part of this process, so that on the one hand we're not just talking about exporting of products, but we're talking about the extent of it. We have a generation of educators whose schools and everything is in alignment with what this thing looks like. And so I don't know the figures. All I'm saying is we have an opportunity at this stage to reinvent the economic flow of this country that preserves our independence, that demonstrates the extent of it we are a sovereign nation, and to my point, any other nation around the world will keep on dictating to us. We show them the means by which not only we have something that's important to them, but it makes us players in the game. I'm not just talking $100,000. We're talking mindset.
We're going to leave that right there.
I think a whole very, very healthy
I think it's a very healthy argument.
But I just want
I think it's a very healthy argument. The numbers may be a little bit.
Not that I'm disputing nothing on the gentleman.
The point is
because I'll introduce you.
the point is
Right now.
what's his name? Lincoln Bain.
Yeah.
What Lincoln Bain has been saying has been basically true. The point is, it's that the numbers may be a little bit off and so far and that kind of thing. But, all of those things can be worked out with the proper documentaries that will be happening as far as what the Sovereign Wealth Fund will cost. And then we'll be able to be on a better page.
Right.
But the theory is right.
Good, Steve. I'm not disputing
the theory is right. The theory is right that some things can happen if we want to make it happen. All right?
Okay, Steve.
Thank you. No, any personal, but here's the point, Steve. Those see part of the, and listening to Leslie's point, part of the conversation that has been had by even previous ministers of our government is to almost make this thing of no value.
Yeah.
And see, that's the subliminal message that one has to combat.
Yeah,
because they want to.
I think you're right.
Yeah, they want to say the thing you making noise about have no value.
Yeah.
Therefore, we need not pursue after.
Really go behind that and show the value side of it. I understand.
So are we saying that modern salt, the salt that they produce, is of no value? We're not saying that.
No.
We're not saying that.
Leslie,
But we are saying that there's a process
this
that
discussion.
one has to go into, the financial
Yeah, I understand what
funding
you say. I
to get
understand
these
your whole
projects
point.
done. That's all I'm
I
saying.
understand your whole point. The whole thing.
Davis can go and drill for us too,
The whole thing requires us to do much more research on the matter so we can find out the bitter facts. So that when we do find out the bitter facts, we can present it and say, this is what it is that we are talking about. And I rest my case on that particular one. Hard copy, how are you?
Mr. McKinney,
Yes, sir.